Time to read that to you. Uh-oh. Where'd it? Nope, I went too far. Hold on. Don't fire it just yet. Okay, now let's play the open.
Damn it, Jim, what the hell's the matter with you? Other people have birthdays. Why are we treating yours like a funeral?
Bones, I don't want to be lectured.
Ooh, yeah. Very, very many happy reasons.
And it's celebrity birthdays today, and before I run down the list, if you're celebrating your birthday today, happy birthday. And you share your birthday with these famous people. They include Football Hall of Famer Y.A. Tittle is 87. Rock musician Bill Wyman of the Rolling Stones is 77. Actor F. Murray Abraham is 74. Movie director and screenwriter David S. Ward is 68. Kevin Kline is 66. Former NAACP president Kwesi Ufuma. Let's try that again. Kwesi Ufume is 65. There we go. My apologies. Is 65. Country musician Billy Thomas of Terry McBride and the Ride is 60. Actor Doug Davidson is 59. Actor B.D. Wong of Law & Order fame is 53. Guy doesn't look a day over 35, does he? Rock musician Ben Giles of Silverchair is 34. And singer and actress Monica Arnold is 33. Actress and comedian Casey Wilson is 33. R&B singer Adrian Balin of 3LW is 30. And R&B singer and rapper actor Drake is 27. Finally, actress Sinead Grimes is 24. And a thought for today: 3 passions, but simple but overwhelmingly strong, have governed my life. The longing for love, the search for knowledge, and unbearable pity for the suffering of mankind. That's according to Bertrand Russell, an English philosopher, lived from 1872 to 1970. All right. Now it's time for Today in History, and I have room in the time machine for 1 passenger, and I've chosen you.
Hi friends, I had to step away for just a little bit. There's somebody at the front door, and I'll be right back. But in the meantime, here's Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass to keep you company, okay, while we kill time. I'll be right back.
Welcome back to Studio 4 on this Thursday morning, the 24th day of October, 2013, and yours truly, Joe Haffner, slowly waking up on this edition of First Cup. And still to come, I'll have the song of the day, what's on TV tonight, as well as popular tweets of the day coming up in just a moment. Right now, though, it's time for News of the Weird.
Hi friends, I had to step away for just a little bit. There's somebody at the front door, and I'll be right back. But in the meantime, here's Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass to keep you company, okay, while we kill time. I'll be right back.
October 24th, 1945. Birth of the United Nations. The Charter of the Global Organization takes effect nearly 2 months after the Japanese surrender ending World War II. 1952. Dwight Eisenhower promises to bring the Korean War to an end. The Republican candidate for president makes his pledge on the campaign trail.
Only in that way could I learn how best to serve the American people in the cause of peace. I shall go to Korea.
Eisenhower wins the presidential election and visits Korea over a month later. 2002. In Maryland, authorities arrest 2 people in connection with weeks of deadly sniper attacks in the Washington, D.C. area. They catch John Mohammed and Lee Malvo after the series of shootings kills 10 people and wounds 3. Mohammed is sentenced to death in Virginia and life in prison in Maryland. Malvo gets a life sentence in both states. 2003. The supersonic Concorde makes its last transatlantic trip, concluding 27 years of commercial service. 3 of the luxury passenger jets land at Heathrow Airport outside London, all arriving from New York's John F. Kennedy Airport. 2005. Civil rights activist Rosa Parks dies. In 1955, Parks made a simple decision that sparked a revolution. When a white man demanded she give up her seat on a Montgomery, Alabama bus, the then 42-year-old seamstress said no. Her act of defiance earned her the title Mother of the Civil Rights Movement. Parks was 92. And 1991. Gene Roddenberry, creator of the sci-fi TV series Star Trek, dies in Santa Monica, California. He was 70. Today in history, October 24th, Carlotta Bradley, The Associated Press.
This is Across Our Wide Missouri with Bob Priddy.
This was Indian territory once, every bit as Indian as the Dakotas or Arizona or New Mexico ever were. But as the white man settled, the Indian was either convinced he should move or was forced out. It is thought the people we call Indians lived in Missouri for about 10,000 years. Mastodons still roamed the state then. In 1838, a German fossil dealer found a mastodon skeleton in Gasconade County, and in 1840 another was found in Benton County, and in both cases, sharpened points, arrows, or other projectiles were found nearby. Missouri was the home of many different Indian tribes. Here the 2 greatest Indian tribes met, the Sioux and the Algonquians. The Sioux were here first and counted as their people those calling themselves the Osage, the Missouri, the Kansas, Iowa, Arkansas, or Quapaw. The Algonquians came in the late 18th century, including the Illinois and their subfamily, the Cahokians, as well as the Shawnees, the Kickapoos, Delawares, and the Moingonas, the Sauks and Foxes. But just a few years after the white man came, the Indians were gone. The story in a minute.
Hi friends, Joe Haffner here. Are you interested in buying, selling, trading, or renting a house? Or maybe you're in the market for buying or selling a car, or perhaps selling or giving away clothes, furniture, or electronics. Well, I can help you out. Just email me, Joe, at Gunther'sHouseOfFriends@gmail.com. That's Gunther'sHouseOfFriends@gmail.com. Email me today with your item and or items, and together we'll come up with a creative way to buy, sell, trade, or rent any reasonable item or service that you want. Keep in mind, though, I don't deal with the exchange of firearms, alcohol items, drugs, or anything illegal or immoral. So send me an email today at Gunther'sHouseOfFriends@gmail.com.
The Algonquians almost wiped out the Missouris, regarded by some historians as the most warlike of all the Sioux. The early French and Spanish settlers apparently got along well with the Indians, although there was occasional trouble. One Spanish governor was told by the Home Office that if any Indians brought any scalps to him, he was to determine from which tribe they were removed and then return the hair, if not to the rightful owners, at least to the tribe to which they belonged. In general, Indian slavery was forbidden, trade in guns or booze was forbidden, and dishonest Indian traders were kicked out of the area. But English-speaking settlers seemed to have more trouble than the Spanish or the French. Dwayne Meyer wrote that the Indians respected the fair justice they received from the Spanish, reducing trouble right there. He cited the instance in 1801 when 5 Indians killed a man in the New Madrid area. They were caught and tried in the presence of 2 tribal chiefs. One was killed by a firing squad. The other 4 were forced to watch and then were released. In 1750, a member of the Little Osage tribe killed a fur trader. When the French demanded the killer be punished, the tribe found a suspect, killed him, and sent his scalp to the French commandant. Unfortunately, it was the wrong man. His brother did it, and so the Indians caught him and sent him to the French. Unfortunately, the Indians became more and more dependent on the white man. By 1800, they were almost totally so, relying on the settlers for those items they could not make themselves, the wonders of a more modern civilization. In 1819, the Iowa Fox and Sauk Indians gave up their lands north of the Missouri River, the first time Indians here gave up lands to the white man. In 13 years, there were no more Indian lands in Missouri. 6 years after the Sauk, Fox, and Iowas gave up their lands, the Osage and Little Osage, then the Shawnees, gave up their property rights. In 1829, the Delawares sold their lands. In 1819, when the first 3 tribes gave up their lands in this state, the Kickapoo Indians were giving up their land in central Illinois. The government settled them in southwest Missouri on land the Osages used to own. The Osages complained bitterly. They said they sold their land to the government for white settlers, not for other Indians. The famous artist George Catlin wrote that contact with the white man had greatly benefited the Kickapoo tribe. Christianity hadn't hurt, and they seemed to be a little more vigorous than they had been when in Illinois. The tribe was generally lazy then, he thought. Catlin thought their chief, who was a strong Christian, had much to do with the change in the tribe. The Kickapoos eventually were offered land near Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. They accepted and they moved, and became the last tribe to give up lands in the state of Missouri. The last holdings of the Kickapoo Indians, and thus the last holdings of land held by all of the tribes in Missouri for hundreds and thousands of years, were signed over to the United States government. It happened at a ceremony that occurred at Castor Hill in St. Louis County on this date, the 24th of October, in 1832.
Will American spying overshadow economics at the EU today?
Let Marketplace be your guide to the modern world. Subscribe to the Marketplace Tech Report podcast. Find it on iTunes or at marketplace.org/podcasts.
From 8 p.m. in New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the global perspective on business and economics. European leaders gather in Brussels today for a summit. Their meeting has been overshadowed by a new transatlantic spat about U.S. spying. The German magazine Der Spiegel claims the U.S. monitored German Chancellor Angela Merkel's mobile phone. From the European desk in London, Marketplace's Stephen Beard reports.
The claim that America's National Security Agency eavesdropped on Angela Merkel's personal conversations could have an economic impact. It seems likely to give fresh impetus to a measure backed by the European Parliament this week. The Parliament voted to toughen penalties on domestic and foreign companies that break strict European data protection laws. That could hit the US internet companies like Google hard. Gus Hussain of the Privacy International campaign says the revelations about Merkel's mobile have made tougher restrictions on transatlantic data flows more likely.
Now that the heads of state from across Europe are targets for the National Security Agency, they're going to start taking this matter a hell of a lot more seriously.
Some analysts suggest that the Merkel revelations could also complicate the $4 trillion transatlantic free trade deal currently under negotiation. In London, I'm Stephen Beard for Marketplace.
We've been reporting on the sloppy and some say disastrous debut of the federal health insurance exchanges. Well, representatives of the 4 lead contractors who designed and built that system will be on Capitol Hill today for the first of many hearings on the flawed rollout of the Affordable Care Act. These companies are not upstarts but big outfits that have worked on government projects for a long time. Marketplace's David Gura explains why.
The process of landing a deal with the government is Byzantine. David Van Slyke teaches business and government policy at Syracuse. He says there are so many rules and requirements.
And that ends up closing out other potential vendors from entering the market.
On top of that, working with the government is not easy, says Steve Ryan with the McDermott Law Firm.
Look, you have to make a commitment to be a government contractor.
A commitment that a lot of Silicon Valley firms may be reluctant to make.
The commitment often requires that you have a cost accounting system that is not consistent with commercial practices.
A system you'd have to build from scratch, and that isn't cheap. David Van Slyke at Syracuse says there's been resistance to reforming the acquisition process.
The firms that have an advantage already in the government contracting market are not looking to lose that advantage by having new upstarts enter the market,
which keeps the pool of companies bidding for and winning big contracts pretty small. In Washington, I'm David Gura for Marketplace.
Now let's do the numbers. After news this morning that activity at Chinese factories is